Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse here, and I am back for another channel update and just kind of a random topic video because September has also been quite eventful in technology and gaming, good, bad, and otherwise. So we'll get right into that momentarily. Um, for anyone new to the channel, welcome. And to anyone who has been supporting the channel for a while, thank you for your support. Very much appreciated. I do unlock videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, sometimes more frequently. Could be accessibility event, something significant in gaming, or accessibility, game accessibility, what have you. But Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, everything is divided into playlists, so you should be able to find something of interest to you. My main focus is technology and games as a legally blind, visually impaired user. And, if you're looking for mainstream games that I play with my remaining vision, those are the Low Vision Spotlight playlist series. And if you're looking for games that can be played with no usable vision, those are my accessible game spotlight series, whether that's iOS, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. But I do a lot of other stuff too. I haven't done virtual reality in a while because I just kind of got tired of these headsets not implementing any native platform accessibility. You have your PlayStation, your Xbox, and set-top boxes, they all have screen readers in them. Well, not so much for the VR headsets. The PlayStation 2 VR does support the Sony screen reader that they use for the PS5, but they don't really support that super well. And I just, I want to have a lot of like versatility and flexibility. So while I covered VR pretty extensively, pretty heavily for a few years, the last couple of years I've backed off on that a little bit, but I'm hoping that'll return one day. I'm hoping that one of these headsets, I'm hoping Meta will get its head out of its butt and finally support accessibility sooner rather than later. But who knows when or if that'll happen. The Growing Up Illegally Cited playlist is also quite good. If you're interested in, if you have questions about the channel, myself, blindness, technology, accessibility, any number of things, I highly recommend checking that playlist out. Presentations, like podcast presentations and interviews. I've done a lot of public speaking as far as game accessibility, technology accessibility, employment stuff, just a little bit of everything. Disability, technology, accessibility, gaming, VR, any of the above. And then just a whole bunch of other stuff, just like random like hardware reviews or other geeky stuff, a few Let's Plays here and there. But yeah, hopefully you'll find something there that will be of interest to you. So as far as the channel goes, lots of videos. I've been recording a lot of videos lately, and I will be releasing some of those. Like I said, I have a backlog of videos. I try to record videos whenever I can. So if there is something more timely, like this video, I'll record it, boom, it'll go out right away, because it needs to be more timely. But if it's a game I'm covering, it may be something that I really want to put out right now. But it may be something where I just have a bunch of videos queued up. And, if I get sick or if I'm out of town for whatever reason, I already have videos recorded and you guys just won't know any better. And the schedule will continue as normal. But this year is such a weird year, 2024, because the gaming industry itself has largely become a freaking dumpster fire. Companies closing, bankruptcies, closures, mass layoffs, mergers, your general working level man and woman, just getting completely screwed. The upper management and executives just completely fucking over people left and right, where, entire companies have been closing even when they appear to be releasing great games, when they're doing, well. They're making money, but they're not making all the money. And it's become really exhausting these last couple of years. The industry itself, I've said this before, as much as I wanted to enter the game industry, I've always wanted to be, growing up like, oh man, I'd love to make video games for a living, or I'd love to be involved tangentially in that area somehow. Um, if somebody offered me a job right now working in the game industry, even for like a company that's doing well, I don't know that I would. I don't know that I would really accept that position right now. As much as I would be tempted, as volatile as the gaming industry is right now, I've got a really good thing going with my state job right now. I still get to do a lot of what I like. And I still, I have gotten some paid gigs through accessibility consulting, through public speaking, through, any number of different things, beta testing, perks like that. And just, I love doing that work. And so I feel like I've got the best of both worlds right now. Like I've got a job that I feel is pretty secure, and in these times, that is not something to be taken lightly. If you have a job right now, especially PSA, if you are a person with a disability and you have a job, even if you don't really like it, for the love of God, do not quit your job. At the very least, until you have for sure another job lined up and you know that that job is going to work out. Like, oh, this job, it looks really cool, but accommodations wise, something went screwy and it's not going to work out. Because everybody's going to be looking for work these days. And if you thought it was hard before trying to find work, holy hell, I am so glad I'm not looking for work right now. That's all I'm going to say. Especially in a technology or gaming field. I mean, to be fair, if you're interested in like assistive technology, accessibility, vision teachers, like for K-12, good God, if you have any interest in those fields, Lord knows we need way more qualified individuals in those areas, because we just do. There's a shortage of really good, like, type of people that know the assistive technology can really help people. So, but yeah, long way of saying the tech and gaming industry is completely going insane right now. And I'm glad that I still have a foot in the tech and game industry as a professional. But I also feel like I have a pretty secure job right now. So I am extremely thankful, extremely grateful for that right now. So that is my advice to you out there is if you have a job, do not take it for granted and do not quit, because it's going to be a bitch to find a new one unless you're extremely lucky. And if you are, good job, and I hate you. But so that's the one half of it. Like on the one half, the gaming industry is a complete crapshoot right now. But on the opposite side, especially on the indie side, good God in heaven, there is no shortage of games. I follow a few people on YouTube. I've got a few people that I follow for boomer shooters. I've got a few like indie game channels and, podcasts here and there. And every other day, oh crap, that's coming out. Oh, there's 4 games coming out that I want to play today. There's, another cool looking boomer shooter. Just ridiculous. So like the games that are coming out are, no matter what you're into, first-person shooters, like space shooters, strategy games, niche games. Like there's something for everybody out there. So I see these posts on social media. Oh, the gaming industry, like there's no good games to play. Where have you been? Because clearly you're not looking hard enough. I mean, yeah, if you want every game to be the same old, either grind fest or microtransaction thing, whatever. I mean, the AAA space, there are some great games coming out. Like Astrobot just came out, which I absolutely love. You got, well, literally a Legend of Zelda game coming out here tomorrow or Friday, I forget, which I might check out. There are some AAA games, but at the same time, yeah, there's not as many. And there's so many indie games. And I remember talking recently, even, doing a couple videos on some arcade racers, like the old school rally demo, or the what was that futuristic racing, that kind of F-Zero game that I'm really bad at. Um, there's getting to be, again, a pretty good number of arcade style racing games again. Blue Sky 90s arcade racers, like NES or Super Nintendo style, futuristic, old school rally type of racing. There's literally one I picked up for cheap the other day, that I'm gonna check out. It's literally like crazy races based around parking ramps, parking garages, that just look zany and fun. What the Car, which is just another completely off the wall game. But I mean, like I said, there's just people who grow up with a certain type of game. They're old enough where they can make their own games, and so it's like, oh, I want a game like this again. I want an arcade style football game. I want whatever it is, and people are making them. So follow the indie scene. Um, and again, I'm not going to shun the AAA. Like everyone, a lot of people now are also, oh, screw the indie games, or screw the AAA. Just go for indie. Yes, I highly favor indie right now, but if a game is good, I don't care if it's indie, AAA, double A, quadruples, octagonal A, or whatever. If it's cool, I'll play it. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the gaming industry and the channel. Like I said, I've got a lot of indie games that I've recorded videos for, that I want to record videos for, that I haven't even gotten to purchase yet. Again, my Steam backlog alone is ridiculous. I'm having a couple of days off here pretty soon, so I'm hoping to at least try a few more to get through my library, my backlog, but they keep coming. So yeah, and unfortunately there hasn't been as much in the way of blind accessible games this year. It's been disappointing, especially after the last couple of years. We've had some Last of Us games, we've had the Sony stuff, God of War and Spider-Man, and Ubisoft stuff. Although Ubisoft, they've been great about accessibility. They've been improving different things every time, but they have not cracked the shell yet. They have not cracked a game being totally playable independently by someone without sight, without any usable vision. And I hope that changes. Literally early today, I guess I'll just slide right into that. We got news that Assassin's Creed Shadow, the newest one that is set in feudal Japan, got delayed until, well, February 14th of next year. They say it's pretty much done, but they want to polish it, and people are reading a lot into, like, Ubisoft is doomed. There's the other thing that I'm absolutely getting sick of. Every single game that has any form of positivity that has been coming out lately, you get this small but very, very vocal minority that will find something to hate about it, something to be offended about by it. And it's this, anti-woke culture. Like, oh, this game is woke because it had a female character. Oh, why are you allowed to play like, all this gender pronouns thing? I mean, admittedly, I don't want that stuff shoved. I've talked about this before. I don't want either side shoved down my throat. If you include your non-binary, if you include male female options, if you include whatever, that's totally fine for me. Do it, say it and be done, whatever. But don't force it down my throat. It's any agenda, whether you're for something or against something. It's like this whole politics thing. If you're, if you're highly against all this kind of stuff and inclusion, um, I hate that being shoved down my throat. But I also hate like the whole performative, the whole performance thing of like, see how inclusive we are, or see how, every other thing's about pronouns and everything's about like, I don't want that shit shoved down my throat either. I'm glad you include it, but just let it be, it is what it is, and if people want to make use of it, cool. If they don't, cool. I mean, it's just literally the same thing where people are offended about accessibility. If you don't need the stuff, don't use it. If you need accessibility features or settings or different things, like myself, I will use them. I'm not going to get mad at a game for including accessibility features for people who are deaf or people who have a mobility impairment or whatever. Good, I'm glad they do, you know? But just live and let live, and like just everyone is bitching about everything, and um and it's not just the woke stuff, it's not just the pronoun stuff, although like I said that is getting really old as well. Just all this stuff being shoved down your throat from all directions. The people who are for it and against it, just chill out, all of you, But Ubisoft, they delayed their Assassin's Creed game. And I mean, they had the Prince of Persia game that was extremely well received earlier this year. I can't believe that was this year. God, that seems like ages ago. But they've had a couple of rough spots. The Star Wars Outlaws, which I covered on the channel, I have really mixed feelings on it. I love the atmosphere. I love it's not just focused on Jedis. I love that you're going, you're kind of playing this kind of scoundrel character, your Han Solo type character. And I love everything about that type of stuff, but the gameplay, especially being so heavily focused on stealth, and then there's insta-fail missions, and then there's like, oh, if you insta-fail, and if you fail a mission, you'll actually lose money, and you'll lose reputation with a faction, and you can get yourself kind of in this situation where, well, now I'm really fucked because I got to grind, or I got to figure out how to get some resources back so I can do what I need to do. There's just something about like the mechanics, and I know they are working on some updates. A lot of people have been, especially early in the game, there's some insta-fail stealth missions that people are not taking kindly to, and in that case, I do kind of understand, and I kind of agree. They're going to be kind of pulling back on some of that a little bit and making it a little bit more playable. Because I mean, insta-fail, like, I don't know, like, a challenge is one thing, but I don't like oh, you did one little thing wrong and you have to do it this exact way. Especially in like an open world, semi-open world type of game. That's just not fun, at least to me. I talked about the early Splinter Cell games where I love the idea of the first two, but they were a pain in the ass to play for me because I didn't see something and then I got instantly spotted, done. And then you had Chaos Theory and Beyond, where it's like, oh, you could get yourself out of a scrape. And I absolutely still love that game. I love Conviction. But yeah, not Sea of Thieves. I can't even remember the pirate game from Ubisoft. I can't even remember what it's called now. um, that one launched pretty badly. I don't know how many people bought that, and then with Assassin's Creed and Star Wars, and it seems like they are in a rough spot. They are still, like I said, they're trying to do great with accessibility. I hope they really do for one of these upcoming games sooner rather than later. I hope that one of these games are playable for blind players without sighted assistance. But yeah, we got that announcement. And literally, we had about a week ago, there was this Annapurna Games company who I believe they're involved with like the Max, what was it, like the Max Payne or the Control, like the kind of the Remedy type games and some other stuff. I mean, their executives. I'm not going to report on the full details, but like something higher up pissed the employees off so much that literally all of them, all of the employees quit. They're like, fuck this, I'm out, and boom, they're gone. And so that was an interesting thing. We had, I can't even keep track. The last few days, there's been a lot of games pressed or like games media that got laid off. And, to the point where people were trying to log into their Slack or their Discord and like, why can't I access this anymore? Only to find out that's how they found out they were fired. They weren't even given like a proper notice or anything. They're just like, nope, we're gonna, the old Office Space line of like, yeah, we like to avoid conflict at all possible. We're just gonna screw the workers and, it's all about us. So it's been rough. But at the same time, like I said, there's indie games coming out left and right. I don't want to think about how much money I've spent just picking up the odd $5-7 game on Steam in the last month. I probably spent well over $100 because I want to support the developers. And there's been like, oh, we're launching it 25% off, and so, or there's a game that's on sale now for like 60% off. I'm like, damn it. Okay, fine. So yeah, it's this weird contrast of like the industry is it's in a very like bad state in so many ways, but then you get these games that are coming out, and as many good games that are coming out, I hope that the games that are good that are coming out, like there's so many of them that I don't know that all of them are going to get the attention they need or deserve, so that these smaller developers can stay in business and keep doing what they're doing. So, again, I highlight, and I've had comments, thank you to people who have been saying, I love that you're highlighting a lot of these indie games that I would have never known about. So, again, support these guys financially. If you like a game, you want to play it, well, even if you have to wait for it to be on sale a little bit, buy it, support the devs so they can keep making cool stuff, so they can keep improving accessibility, that kind of a thing. But yeah, that's kind of where things are at. A lot more to cover on the channel. September's been crazy. There's going to be a lot of stuff in October, I think. I think November and December are going to be slowing down a little bit, although as we had the Sony State of Play yesterday, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered coming in December. I remember playing the hell out of the first one in college. A friend of mine and I in the dorms trying to figure that game out. Really cool game. The only thing that I hated about it was there got to be, like, especially later on, so many of those damn block puzzles where you had to like push and rotate and flip these blocks in some way to either to make like a visual pattern or to, I remember there's like there were holes in them, so you had to like make kind of the airflow a certain way. There were so many damn block puzzles in that game that it kind of got old after a while. But otherwise, those games are really cool, and I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to go. So I'm not going to go through all of the games in Sony's State of Play yesterday, but that, again, transition-wise, it's as good a place as any. Um, we did have a state of play about 40 minutes yesterday, and it was pretty good. They didn't have a lot of first party stuff, but they had, for people who are into the Yakuza series, there's like a Yakuza game that's being set in Hawaii. That's going to be out early next year. Um, they did do a sequel. They're doing a sequel supposedly out next year for Ghosts of Tsushima. I forget how to say the other name of it. Ghosts of it starts with a Y. I forget how to say it. Um, but it's one that I want to play, but I have not gotten around to play either on my PS5 or the recent PC version. So I'm hoping to play the original Ghosts of Tsushima because it looks pretty neat. Um, again, and like you saw the trailer, and apparently you're going to play as a female character, and there's again this small group of people that seem butthurt about that. Oh, you're playing as a female character. Wah. Come on, man. We've been playing female characters since the beginning. I mean, you had Ms. Pac-Man, you had Samus Aran, um, other female characters in RPGs, or a lot of the boomer shooters that I've been playing lately. There's been a lot of female protagonists in them, and that's cool. I'm totally fine with it. I don't care if I play as a dude, if I play as a woman, if I play as a black or white or whatever race. I don't, it doesn't really matter as long as the game is good. Um, Fine with me. But Ghost of Tsushima sequel. We get some footage of the Dynasty Warriors Origins game, which I like the series in theory. Like just this swathing through fields and fields of enemies is cool. The main thing that I have a problem with the Dynasty Warriors games is usually you are in these kind of really big open environments, and there's some objective or some person that you have to get to, and sometimes they're timed, and there's so much happening, and you got to look at the HUD, but you got like 70 guys around you literally. um and as a low vision player, I wish there was like a way that was just a lot easier to clearly know where to go. um some better navigation assists to get to your main objective, especially so you don't fail. Um, but that could be fun. Um, a lot of them, there was a lot of games that were kind of your third person melee. I don't know if they were just, these days it's so hard to tell because there were a lot of games that looked like they could be inspired. Everyone calls them Souls-likes. I don't know if they're just an action game or if they're really focused on the a lot of the mechanics of a Souls-like. But there were a few games that looked pretty interesting combat-wise. That seemed to be a pretty big trend of games. And what I will say is a lot of the games that they showed a lot of gameplay, and it seemed like there was still a lot of focus on single player games, whether it's action or a couple of more low key games. But I don't even know if there were very many that were focused on multiplayer, period, let alone like your live service type of games. There was a couple PSVR titles, which is good that they're still working on a few of those. There was a Metro Awakening? That was the Metro series in VR. So that's cool. I'm trying to remember even what was all in there. Like I said, there was a lot of combat. The Lunar series, Lunar 1 and 2, they're remastering those for PlayStation 4 and 5. I think they're coming to other platforms as well. I mentioned the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2. Those are coming. I'm very much looking forward to that. So looking forward to seeing how that's going to go. I mean, like I said, there were games that looked interesting, but there wasn't really a lot that there wasn't this one or two games that really, oh my god, yeah, that's awesome. The Ghost of Tsushima sequel, that's cool. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver series, that's cool. I can't even remember all the other games. Like I said, there was a Dynasty Warriors one. There was, they talked about the PlayStation 5 Pro again. They said a few more games that are going to be optimized for it. They've got the special edition, like, anniversary edition PlayStation consoles and controllers and the portable PlayStation-y thing that I can't remember what PlayStation Remote or whatever it's called. That look like the original PlayStation. I mean, that's cool. And admittedly, like some of, especially like the DualSense Edge in that original PlayStation look, kind of looks sharp. I like the look of that, but it's probably going to be stupid expensive. Um, so they mentioned that kind of stuff a little bit, but I mean, like I said, there are games. Oh, yes, the Horizon Forbidden West, the first game is again being remastered. People are mad about that. They already optimized it for the PS5 and they just had a PC port. Why are you doing it again? And in this case, I somewhat agree. It seems like, wow, you just optimized it for the PS5 already. Why are you doing another remaster? And if you own the original, you can get it upgraded for $10, which is good. You can get the upgrade for cheap. That's much appreciated. Um, but I'm hoping that it's more than just a graphical update. I know they, in the Horizon, what was the second game called? I covered it on the channel. Yeah, the Forbidden West, and I can't remember what the sequel was called. But they added a lot of accessibility to it. Again, it's not what I would call totally blind playable yet. But I'm hoping that they bring over a lot of those accessibility features that were in the second game to the remaster of the first. And that's, again, that's an area that none, or I would say 98 to 99% of these other people who cover this stuff, your mainstream press, your mainstream podcasts, don't cover. Oh, it's just a graphical enhancement. And largely, yeah, that's probably the case. Um, but they never talk about accessibility because they don't need it, so they don't care. It's like The Last of Us when they remade it for the PS5. They added the descriptive audio for the cutscenes. They, added some of the accessibility stuff that was in the second one to the first game. And that's great. And so, if Horizon goes the similar way and they, maybe bring that accessibility level up to the sequel and maybe surpass it a little bit, then good. Then that's another group of people who may be able to play that game who weren't able to before, and yet no one ever talks about it. And I find that really, like, every time I see that, I want to reply or leave a comment on a video saying, yeah, I know you don't care, but they put a lot of work into accessibility, and that is worth a remaster. That is worth a new version if they can get another whole group of people to be able to play it. They have the Lego Horizon game, which is, again, kind of a weird thing. Lego stuff is really for family, for kids. And, the Horizon, I'm not going to say it's like the most, M-rated game ever, but I don't know. It just seems like a weird thing. It's like, I'm trying to think of another franchise. It's like, I don't know, like maybe like a Lego Left 4 Dead or something. I don't know. Which actually would be pretty cool, come to think about it. Like shooting zombies in melee and then they just explode into Lego bits. Come to think of it, a Lego Left 4 Dead would be kind of rad. but I'm just saying, like, the kind of more mature rated content brought down to a Lego game. But again, we've had similar things like that. RoboCop, a hardcore, like the first movie was like, you would never want to show that, or most people wouldn't want to show that to kids. I watched it when I was a kid. I thought it was badass, but especially in today's climate, like you wouldn't show RoboCop to a young kid. They would probably have nightmares. But they literally made they made a RoboCop cartoon. They made RoboCop NES games, arcade games. So, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of any other major, like they said, there were decent announcements and there are games I want to look at. I was hoping for a couple of other PC announcements. I was hoping that, that The Last of Us Part 2 would be coming to PC so that people who maybe find the PC platform to be more accessible can catch up fully with the story as it currently is. But that wasn't announced. Although Last of Us Part 2, if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, that will be coming to PlayStation Plus soon. So that's a cool thing. Um, of course, there was no Bloodborne remaster, which I would like to try Bloodborne. I didn't have a PlayStation 3 or 4 or whatever it was when that game came out, so I never really played it. And I've tried the Dark Souls games and got frustrated. I know people say that maybe maybe that one is a little bit more accessible than the Dark Souls series, but I wish they would just do a remaster because that way people can shut up about it. um, and again, I mean, I get it. People want their remaster. I want my Burnout 3 remaster. Um, I just saw something today about, hey, 30 years ago today or 20 years ago today. I'm like, Burnout 3. So I get it. Every game has their fandom, and Bloodborne has fans, for sure. But that's Sony. Trying to think what else. So there's Meta had their keynote today, and I didn't get to really watch it. I had things going on at work, and I tried to have it on in the background, but the stream was so god awful that I think it maybe played 5 minutes of the whole presentation. It was only you had to go through like the Facebook website or something, and I found a stream of it, but it was buffering so horribly that it would like play for 5 seconds and then it would just freeze and the video would glitch and show the countdown timer, and I literally had to watch what I know about it through some recap videos on YouTube because it was just so. I mean, they did a piss poor job of that stream, let me tell you, making it available live. Um, and they are coming out with their Llama is what they call their AI, their Llama engine. They said over the next little while they are having some new updates to the Meta glasses, and for now, thankfully, we're not getting a new Ray-Ban Meta glasses. There's a new edition, a limited edition where instead of like a black frame, which looks kind of neat, but they have a clear frame where you can kind of see the innards. I know they had consoles like that in the late 90s. There was this trend where you could have like see-through controllers, which was kind of neat. But if you really want to look nerdy and you kind of get to see all the little components in through the clear plastic and the frames and everything, they look kind of neat. But I like the regular, just the regular black Ray-Ban. I've just been like, I'll wear them out in public and I actually get complimented like, dude, those are some sharp looking glasses. I'm like, oh yeah, not only are they sunglasses, but they're smart glasses. They do cool AI stuff, and they work as a Bluetooth headset. So I guess we're really just gonna have to wait and see. I'll have to wait and see as the updates come out and how they're gonna support. But they were talking about like, being able to be more conversational. So, not having to say, "Hey Meta" every time, or how you have to say, look and tell me. You have this weird wording that you have to say right now, and they're trying to make it so you can instead just say like, "Hey Meta, what am I looking at?" or "What am I holding?" or just saying it like a person would talk instead of some weird scripted. That was the big thing with all these smart speakers. You had to be like, open the podcast app with the thing of the thing and play the thing. Like nobody talks like that. And to remember all these weird syntaxes, I'm glad that that's becoming a thing that they're kind of, figuring out. Um, So there's going to be that. They're working on like some sort of like contextual awareness of what you're doing. So they didn't go into a lot of that, and I only saw a little clip of it, so I don't know what the whole conversation was. Um, and I haven't heard anything as accessibility wise as far as, again, a simple thing that they could easily do if they lifted the restriction. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to say, read me this paper I'm holding. What does this say? Don't give me a summary. Like, I could say, give me a summary if I wanted a summary. But literally just to say, literally, read me what I'm looking at. Don't interpret it. Just read the frickin' thing to me. Basically what you would do with Seeing AI or any of these OCR apps now that we've had on mobile for years. That would be a huge, if they allowed that feature alone, just a flat out OCR, the ability to say, hey Meta, read this to me. And if it would do that straight through, these glasses would sell through the freaking roof. I mean, they're already becoming popular for blind vision impaired audiences. I've got a couple of friends already. They're like, I want to wait and see what they do with Meta or with the Meta Connect here. And I'm going to recommend to a couple of my friends, like, dude, just buy them. They're cool. They're going to get better. I think they're worth it. They do have some, drawbacks when I mean, again, if you're comparing them to, getting the information that you need as a blind user, if you're comparing it to things like Be My Eyes or things like that, yes, it does fall short in some areas. But the sheer ability to be able to like literally have my hands full and just by voice saying, hey, what is this? Or, kind of what am I holding? Or, sometimes it'll, I can say, what are the cooking directions for this? And it's worked pretty well with that. So, I really want to see how this Llama AI engine gets better because these are very, very promising for accessibility. Now, Mark Zuckerberg did show they're not releasing it publicly, but they're going to be releasing it to developers to some degree, largely internally. But they have these Orion glasses, which is kind of the next step beyond the Ray-Bans, where there's all kinds of crazy tech that's going into these. So the Orions, they're not just audio. They're looking at like visual, um, holographic visual display. So, I don't know to what degree, but like you're using a combination of voice commands and like hand gestures, or there's like this wrist device thingy that lets you do things. But again, they're adding this visual component because, while audio is cool, sighted people can't be without their vision. Everything is done so visually that, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are times where a vision would be really cool. To just somehow, draw a line on the ground as I'm walking and I can look down at the sidewalk and go, oh, okay, there's a left arrow. I guess I should turn left here. That's cool. It's not intrusive, and it's augmentative and it's helpful. So things like that, but it sounded potentially interesting. It sounded potentially promising. He mentioned that one of the reasons they're not releasing this is they need to optimize it better. They need to kind of shrink it into a more streamlined wearable, and they need to drastically get the price down because these suckers are probably going to be expensive. They're cramming a ton of tech into like a pair of glasses. Just, it's again, just think about the Ray-Bans right now. Even though they're only audio, there's a lot. I mean, there's cameras in them. There's audio. There's good audio in them for what they are. The connection and the smart ability when paired with your phone, all that in a pair of smart glasses. I mean, that was science fiction, even 5, 10 years ago. Um, so there is promise. I think the Ray-Bans are going to get better, and I think it's one of the more interesting mainstream cooperations with accessibility, and I hope that Meta does open it up more to like assistive technology companies, because earlier this week I also saw that Envision is going to be working with Meta. Now, I was a little confused because it seems like I don't know if they're really going to be working with the Ray-Ban per se, but they may be working, they may be one of the partners that are working with the Orions eventually. So when that eventually comes to be, um, when that becomes a public product in some way a year or two down the road, let's say, I could see that Envision may have, and again, it could be like, it sounds like they're going to try to work with their, what they call Ally. Remember, I did that video call with the Envision Assistant earlier this summer, which is still pretty cool, but they've rebranded to Ally. And so again, that's another thing where like you can kind of get it to just read something to you or ask it more specific questions that a blind person would need to ask. So I don't know if that's going to trickle down to the Ray-Bans. I hope it does, because we don't need the visual stuff. As long as the cameras can recognize something or can recognize text well enough to have it read to us, that's what we want. But I know that Meta and Envision are publicly working together. So it'd be interesting to learn. I don't know if like Be My Eyes is, or Seeing AI. I don't know, if they're going to announce future partnerships, but at least we know that Meta is open to working with these types of developers. So they're, again, you can't bank on, you can't buy something really that's based on what's promised to come, but there is a lot of potential. So that's what little I know about the Meta event so far. Again, follow me on Twitter, because that's where I will retweet a lot of these articles. That's where I will I have a quick little thought on something that I found out about, before I sum them all together in a video like this. So that's your Meta event. And to wrap things up, I don't think I'm going to do a full hardware review on it right now, because it just doesn't seem worth it. But I do want to let people know what my thoughts are on the iPhone 16 series, especially the 16 Pro Max, which is what I bought. I've had it since last Friday. Yeah, it showed up on the 20th on launch day as it was supposed to, which is great. There was a weird little confusion with my order, but it went through fine. I got my iPhone on launch day. I had it by like 9:30 that morning. I used the little nearby thing where you put your old phone next to it. It copies over all the data. It sucks over all the settings. It literally pulled my phone number. It pulled my Apple card. I just had, or my Apple Pay stuff. I just had to enter my security CVV code for my card, and then boom, my Apple Pay was working. It remembered a lot of my passwords. All my apps came through. I still had, again, it doesn't remember everything. So some apps like, oh God, what the hell was that password? I've been using Face ID for the last 3 years. I don't remember what that password is. So there was a little bit of setup with that, but the upgrade process was very smooth. The last couple phones I've had, the last one and this one, are the 512 gig models. And so what I forgot is, if you do, instead of, you can also pull down from iCloud, but the advantage of if you do it from device to device, let's say that there's an app that got pulled or that's no longer available, as long as it was on your old phone and you're copying that to the next one, you can still get those apps over. But what I neglected to remember was that when they do that, they must be doing it over Bluetooth, because it is slow. It took probably close to 2 hours. I just had to I plugged them both in, I set them both on my nightstand next to each other, and just go in and did other stuff, because it took a long time for that data to transfer over. From about 10% to 70%, it was super slow. And then from about 75% until 100%, it pretty much just zipped through, and it got through that like in a few minutes. But yeah, the transfer process seemed to go smoothly. It seemed to even remember a lot of my settings, like even like the back tap thing that I had set up, or the headings gestures that I set up through VoiceOver on my last phone. So yeah, that was really cool. The phone itself, you will immediately notice, like even from like the older, I forget if they were like stainless steel or whatever, going from like the 13 or 14 series, and then when they went last year to the titanium, the phone is noticeably lighter. It just feels lighter, and that's a nice thing, especially with the larger models. You got these literally a 6.9 inch screen now. They were 6.7 before, but they got rid of a little more bezel and crammed another tiny bit of real estate in there. So yeah, it's kind of about, a lighter, slightly lighter form factor, but um, a larger screen, and it's a good screen. No problems there. The case that I bought for it, I picked up a cheapo case on Amazon, and like for what it is, it's a fine case. But the first case that I bought was a little bit on the chunky side, a little thicker than I thought it was going to be from the pictures and the description. And it kind of made my phone really heavy again. And I'm like, I hold my phone a lot, whether watching videos or doing accessibility things. I want to see if I can find a little bit lighter of a bumper case. And so I went on Amazon again and I found another one, and I'm really happy with this one so far. It's just a nice, kind of got a softer, plasticky, rubberish back to it. But it's a lot thinner, it's lighter, but it still has, the lip around the edges and around the camera. So I like that the weight is better balanced now and it's not quite so heavy. So I found a case that I like, and unfortunately the cases that I normally had been using the last two phones, they don't usually come out until a few months after. I've been using they're just regular bumper cases like I have now, but I've liked this. They do these NES controller. They just have basically the back of your case looks like an NES controller. There's no actual buttons on it or anything. It doesn't function. It's just they're painted on there. It looks like a controller, and it's just a neat design. Like again, I had my old phone at a work meeting the other day, and I had I pulled my phone out of my pocket, and somebody was like, "Oh, that's cool," like because they were commenting on the case, and so. I like that, and if they come out with another one for like 10, $12 and I see it come out for the 16 Pro Max, I might pick it up eventually just for fun. But I like what I have. So, the weight wise, the screen is good. All that stuff is good. Again, the new thing that they've added is the camera control. It's a button. I mean, it's a multi-function button because you can light press on it. You can kind of do a swipe thing. It's kind of think about like the touchpad on the Mac, but not near as annoying because you don't lose physical function keys to get the touchpad. And by default, it opens the camera. You can hit the button to open up the camera and take a picture. But if you hold the button, you can start a video recording. But what I found out you can do, if you go in the settings app and you go under camera or the camera control, you can switch it to magnifier. So yes, now all I got to do is just quick hard press the camera button, and it opens magnifier. Boom. So not that it was hard to swipe down and open it from the control center before, but now I can literally be holding my phone as I am right now, and I can literally just hit the side button, and then boom, it's instantly in my magnifier app, and we are good to go. So that's neat. Now, because I had the 13 before, 13 Pro Max, I didn't have the action button. So now I also have the action button. So the action button is above the volume control buttons where you would normally find on your older phones if you don't have one. And it's a little bit of a smaller button, but you can press that one. And it's kind of weird how it's implemented because um, you can largely have it open Apple apps, flashlight, your camera, accessibility feature. You can choose those. If you want to use a third-party app, you largely have to create a shortcut, and then you call that shortcut and do a third-party thing. But you can't just be like, hey, I want to open Be My Eyes and have it like tell me something, which is what I would really like it to do. So I might actually look and see now that I have this action button. Um, I might look into that. But what I mapped it to now is normally I don't use the system-wide zoom feature all that often on my old phones. The three-finger zoom feature. Um, but what's cool about this is I set the action button to that, and so when I hit it, it turns zoom on, and then when I hold it or hit it again, it turns it off, and it fully turns it off because you can have the zoom feature, like when you turn zoom on, you can do the three finger double tap, and it'll keep the zoom running, but it'll go from whatever your magnification level is back to 1x. You do it twice, it turns it on. You do it twice again, it goes back to 1x, and it's like a toggle. But now I can fully turn that feature off, and now I won't have some of my overlapping gestures interfere with voiceover. And so when I need, like, because again, there's even in the last couple of days, there's been a couple times where like there's just something that is not reading with voiceover because somebody wrote their email crappy or their website crappy or something in an app was stupid. And so I've literally just hit that, turned the Zoom thingy on, and did what I need to do, and then boom. So that's actually been kind of helpful, and I'm actually using the Zoom feature a bit more than I have before. Not that I couldn't have done that before, but it's just a really convenient thing. Um, the camera is better. When I open it up, I can hit the button now, and boom, it literally like goes in. The focus is extremely good. There's really not much in the way of lag. I haven't used the magnifier a ton yet, but I've tested the responsiveness because, again, whether it's magnification or OCR, I wanted to, see. I remember a friend of mine last year, even with the 15, he said, wow, I noticed from my old phone going to the 15, when he was using things like Be My Eyes, things just focus so much more quickly. And that does seem to, I do notice a difference. Even voiceover ran pretty well on my 13 Pro Max with iOS 18, but I definitely notice, especially on apps that are really intensive with graphics and animations and like Twitter sometimes with I hate their new types of ads that have like buttons in them and they're weird like widgety things, and I freaking hate those apps. But VoiceOver is a little more smooth on the new phone with those. Even things like the Amazon Video app, where you're going through the carousels of um, the different video categories on your home page, it's a bit smoother. So you do notice a bit of a difference. But here's the weird part is as much as everything is good, there's a lot that we just don't really know yet, because a large part of what Apple is selling us is, hey, we have Apple Intelligence coming. And they talk about, the whole event was framed around this glow time event, because it was like, hey, it's not just a little ball at the bottom, it's the whole glowy upgraded Siri thing, and the Apple Intelligence features. None of that, like the phone can do it, but none of that is out in iOS 18. They're only going to start releasing some of that stuff in iOS 18.1, likely in October sometime. So the stuff that Apple has been selling us on the last few months since WWDC, unless you really want to put a beta, and I don't want to put a beta on my primary device, unless you put a beta of 18.1 on there, you don't get those features out of the box. Everybody has to wait for any of these, and they're not even going to be rolled out all at once. So over the next several months, Apple's going to be releasing these Apple Intelligence features in stages. And one of the ones that I'm curious about is using that camera control button. I guess you're supposed to be able to hold it, and then it does this visual intelligence thing, kind of like what Seeing AI does or Be My Eyes does, except for, like, let's say I look at a sign of a business that I'm standing out front of, and it might bring up like, oh, here's the reviews of that restaurant, or here's the business hours, or whatever. If I look at a product, maybe it'll bring up where I can buy it, or other details about it, specs or something. I don't know, but like I'm curious what that's going to be. That could have some nice accessibility potential, but none of that stuff is here, so I can't talk about it. So right now, if you are wondering, should I upgrade to an iPhone 16 series? I would say, based on what's out there right now, if you have maybe an iPhone 12 or earlier and you want to be able to have better responsiveness, you want to be able to take eventual advantage of the AI, and again, have a better camera, better screen if you need it. You'll see a pretty significant jump. Even like a 13 series is kind of on the edge. Like you could probably, especially if you don't if you don't need a updated camera or what you have is working well, you could probably get by with the 13. Because again, the AI stuff, some of that stuff isn't even going to be rolling out until or sometime next year. And then of course this time next year there'll be another new phone. So, now I'm ready, and especially for the work that I do professionally, I feel like I have to have a device that will be able to do some of these things. I can use the camera button, I can use the AI stuff when it comes out, and I can answer questions that people have when I need to. But if you don't need to do that right away, you don't have the money, you don't really want to upgrade right now, I wouldn't say there's a huge rush to do it. If you're in the market for it and you have a several-year-old phone, it will be a nice upgrade. But especially if you have a 14 or 15 series, there's not much reason to upgrade. If you really have to have the AI, and you have a 14 or even the 15, not the Pro models, because the regular iPhone 15 and 15 Plus do not get the AI features because they don't have the RAM or the processor or something that it needs. I would wait and see, because I'm intrigued about Apple's iteration of AI, but when you compare it to ChatGPT or Gemini or potentially Meta's not Dolly, Llama thing, and even the apps that we already have on our phones, Be My Eyes, the Ally thing that's coming out, the Ira's got their AI thing, so we already have apps that kind of do the blindy things that we want. I don't really care about the editing feature stuff so much. I don't know that I care about the image, like, oh, make an image of this goofy thing. Like, okay, it's a fun novelty, but am I going to use that regularly? No, probably not. So some of this more gimmicky stuff, I don't even know. I know that eventually they're going to they're partnering with ChatGPT, so you'll be able to put some requests out there to that. but how integrated that's going to be, or I don't know if you're hopefully you don't have to ask permission every time you need to go out to do that. You can just set a blanket permission to say, hey, if I want ChatGPT, just always allow that. I will see how that goes. But so a lot of the potential that these 16 series phones have has not been realized or demonstrated to us yet because we just don't have those features. We don't have those software updates. And if you're looking at an upgrade, if you don't care about the extra, they have 3 cameras instead of 2 on the Pro series, slightly better screen, slightly bump in processor, but like a lot of the core specs from all of the 16s are exactly the same. The same amount of RAM, the same base cameras. Again, you have an extra camera on the Pros, but this year it's a pretty solid line. And so if you want to save a little bit of money and you don't need the really pro cameras, the pro display, you could get by with a 16 Plus or a iPhone 16 and still have a really great phone. Me, I'm greedy and I need all the specs and I need all the speeds and the processors and RAMs, and I'm a nerd. So, and I want my big battery. So I got the Pro Max. But those are some thoughts on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. iOS 18, I mean, it seems quite solid. It performs very well with VoiceOver from what I've seen. And I love the new Braille screen input gesture where, before now you don't even have to use the rotor. You can just like double tap with like you basically, if you're holding your phone landscape and you take one finger on the top, so on the far left, and one on the far right of the screen, and at the same time you just double tap with both fingers, it brings up your Braille input thing, and then boom, you can start entering Braille into edit fields. I've used this on text messages and Twitter, and it's really kind of nice for if you don't have a Bluetooth keyboard around you, but like maybe I need to write a longer email and I just don't want to use the on-screen keyboard because I'm slow at it. I've kind of gotten used to writing on the touchscreen again, in grade 2 Braille, and it works pretty darn well. You can also issue commands with it. You can swipe left and right with 3 fingers, and when you're in Braille input mode, and you can go into command mode. Now, I have not used that myself much, really at all, but I mainly use it for the input. But in some use cases, I find that to be very helpful. So now again, they just made it more convenient. I think they tweaked, in addition to adding the gesture, it sounds like they kind of overhauled the Braille screen input gestures a little bit. And I think, that just the optimization and what they reconfigured it with, I think, even I might use it more because it's really convenient to do. I've been using it off and on the last week, and it's been cool. And I think I will continue to use it off and on. So that, if you know Braille, it's a cool thing. If you are a new iOS user, they have drastically updated their VoiceOver tutorial. If you're familiar with the one that they had on the Mac, it's kind of like that. And it's an interactive tutorial. So it's not just, let's listen to the commands and then we try to memorize them. It's literally you're in a safe environment, and when you get to each of these screens, it'll say, it'll tell you about, tapping or double tapping on something, or swiping, or using the rotor. And I think that it does a good job because you can safely, practice those gestures without interacting with your device. So you can be in this sort of walled off help environment, and it'll guide you through learning some of the core gestures of your device. Now, one thing, and they have all these little, they're basically little modules. So if you want to practice the rotor again, you can go do that later. If you want to practice some other type of gesture or whatever, you can do that again. I would like to see this even more fleshed out with like, like other little examples of like, oh, navigating a web page or the item chooser, or again, especially, I was sort of hoping that they would have had a unit on the Braille screen input as an optional unit, because it's like, oh, then guide me through how to turn it on, how to turn it off. Like you just do the scrub back gesture with 2 fingers and you'll get out of it. Switching between command mode and input mode, like that would be for a future update, to VoiceOver in a future iOS update. I would love to see additional units cover some of those more advanced things, whether they were part of the initial tutorial or you could go in there as optional. Like oh, I want to get some advanced features, or you could say I want to do the Braille features separately because not every VoiceOver user will know Braille. So it's like, oh, I want to learn about the Braille input modes or the Braille features of my device. So whether that's the touch input Braille, or even working with a paired Braille display. Oh, I see you have a Braille display. Would you like to, go through a short tutorial on using a Braille display with VoiceOver? That could be another thing they could add over time. So they have a really nice start to their VoiceOver tutorial. The only major or semi-major annoyance, and I did write Apple Accessibility about it today. I saw somebody post about it on AppleViz. There's a kind of a bug with audio ducking where, so when VoiceOver, audio ducking, when you're listening to, let's say, a movie or an audiobook, and then VoiceOver speaks, your other media, your book or your movie will lower in volume. That's good. Now I can hear VoiceOver. But what happens is then when VoiceOver stops talking, your movie or audiobook, podcast, whatever, should go back to being louder again so you can hear it better. And it doesn't always do that. And what I find I have to do is I will turn VoiceOver off and then on again, and it'll go, oh, yeah, that's right, we were doing audio ducking, weren't we? And then it'll raise the volume of the media again, and then I can hear my movie or my book again. And also sometimes when I'm related to that, when I'm just using an app, it seems like, I think I've seen it in like Twitter and YouTube a couple times, where I'll be doing something and then all of a sudden VoiceOver will get louder or quietly randomly. So I don't know what's up with that. None of those things happen in iOS 17. So there are a couple of weird audio ducking and volume issues with the audio levels of VoiceOver, and I did report that to Apple, and I'm sure other people have too. If you have bug reports and things, accessibility@apple.com. Send them an email. Be descriptive. Let them know about it, because if they don't know about it, they can't fix it. And yes, I have looked under the settings. I looked under, I tried it with full audio ducking or no audio ducking, and if it works properly, I actually like the new when speaking option, because they have 3 options now. So if they iron that out a little bit, hopefully they do that with iOS 18.1 or something, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, it's been a pretty darn smooth experience. iOS 18 is pretty good. The new iPhone is pretty good. It seems like a very, very iterative update right now until we get some of these AI features. But once some of these AI features start rolling out, I will likely do some sort of a iOS 18 and AI, and I'll cover this stuff in more detail, I think, later on once iOS 18 becomes more fully featured. But those are some thoughts for any people that are interested in the new iPhones or iOS 18, whether to upgrade or not. Overall, it's been pretty good. And if you did miss it, if you did miss the news, AppleViz is no longer shutting down. We have that resource again. The forums are back. The app directory is back. All of that stuff is there. Thank you to Be My Eyes for swooping in and saving that resource. And with that, we are going to end on that positive note. It's been a long video again, but there's been a lot to talk about, so hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.